Welcome to Grow with Wisdom, where we uncover life's deepest lessons to help you thrive at any age. I'm your host, and at 83, I've lived a life full of joys, challenges, and hard-earned wisdom. But there's one choice I made that I will. All was regret, moving into a nursing home. I walked through those doors expecting comfort and care, picturing a peaceful chapter of rest. Instead, I found a reality that changed me forever. If you or someone you love is considering a nursing home, perhaps thinking it's the safest or simplest path, this video is your wake-up call. Today, I'm sharing 7 hard truths I wish someone had told me before I signed away my independence. These lessons aren't just stories, they're warnings that could reshape your future. Stay with me until the end, because what you learn today might save you from heartache tomorrow. Let's dive into this journey together on Grow with Wisdom. Now, let's start with the first regret: losing my independence. The moment I stepped into the nursing home, I felt the weight of a truth I wasn't prepared for. I'd lost control of my life. It wasn't the small room, the rigid meal times, or the unfamiliar faces that hit me hardest. It was the realization that my days were no longer mine. At home, I cherished my routines. I decided when to wake up, what to cook, and how to fill my hours. A morning walk through my garden, a quiet afternoon with a book in my favorite chair. These were my choices. In the nursing home, those freedoms vanished. Everything ran on a schedule I didn't create. Breakfast arrived at a fixed time, whether I was hungry or not. Lights out came, whether I was ready to sleep. Want to stroll outside? I needed permission and often waited for an aide who might not have time. In my first week, I woke up in a bed that felt foreign, reached for the novel I'd been reading, and found only bare walls staring back. My books, my chair, the little treasures I'd collected over decades were gone, replaced by a sterile room and a bed I didn't choose. I was no longer the author of my days, the hardest part. Once you give up your independence, reclaiming it feels like climbing a mountain with no path. You adapt because you have to. You stop questioning the dinner menu or asking for unscheduled walks. You mold yourself to their system, but bit by bit, you lose pieces of who you are. If you're considering a nursing home, pause and ask, are you ready to surrender the small freedoms that make life yours? Those choices, however small, hold more value than you might realize. Regret number 2, feeling forgotten. One of the cruelest truths about nursing home life is how quickly the world outside moves on without you. When I first arrived, my family promised regular visits, and I held on to their words like a lifeline. In the early days, my daughter stopped by weekly, her smile, a reminder of home. My grandchildren brought their laughter on weekends, filling my heart with hope. But as months slipped by, the visits tapered off. My daughter's calls replaced. Her presence and my grandchildren's lives, school, work, friends, pulled them away. Holidays stung the most. Promises of gatherings fell apart. Plans changed last minute. And I'd find myself in the common room, watching other residents gaze at the door, silently praying for a familiar face. It wasn't that my family stopped caring. Life simply swept them up. When you're no longer part of their daily rhythm, it's easy for others to assume you're fine, that you're settling in. But the truth is, the longer you're in a nursing home, the easier it becomes to fade from their minds. One lonely evening, I sat clutching my phone, wrestling with whether to call my son. I didn't want to burden him, didn't want to beg for a visit I feared might not come. So I set the phone down, and the silence screamed louder than ever. This was my new reality, waiting, hoping to be remembered. If you're weighing a nursing home, ask yourself, can you endure the loneliness? That creeps in when you're out of sight. Even the deepest love can struggle to bridge that distance. If these stories are hitting home, drop a 2 in the comments to let me know you're with me, and subscribe to Grow with Wisdom for more life-changing insights. Regret number 3, losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing my address. I didn't realize I was also letting go of my reason to live. At home, even the smallest tasks gave me purpose. Watering my roses, brewing my morning coffee, tidying my cozy living room. Those routines grounded me, gave me a reason to greet each day. In the nursing home, those rituals disappeared. Meals arrived on trays, cleaning was handled by staff, and the plants? They weren't mine to nurture. At first, I told myself it would be a relief. No chores, no responsibilities, just rest. But within weeks, an emptiness settled in. The days stretched into endless hours of waiting with nothing to fill the void. Saw it in others, too. Residents who once brimmed with energy now sat motionless, staring at walls or flickering TVs, waiting for time to pass. Scott, an 84-year-old carpenter, had spent his life crafting furniture in his garage, his hands always busy with purpose. In the nursing home, with no tools or projects, he grew quiet, his skilled hands resting idly in his lap. "I feel useless," he confided one day, his voice heavy with defeat. I knew exactly what he meant. Without something to care for, to work toward, life loses its spark. The mind dulls, the body weakens, and you become just another face in a place where time moves. But nothing truly changes. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Holding on to purpose isn't just about passing time, it's about keeping the flame of who you are alive. Regret number 4, declining health faster than expected. Before the nursing home, I was doing well for my age. I wasn't climbing mountains, but I managed my daily life, cooking, walking to the corner store, stretching each morning to keep my body strong. Those routines kept me moving, kept me alive. But in the nursing home, everything shifted. Meals were delivered, so I no longer stood in my kitchen chopping vegetables. If I needed something, a button summoned help. At first, it felt like a luxury, but I didn't see the cost. The less I did, the weaker I became. My legs grew stiff, my steps unsteady. Getting up from a chair turned into a struggle, and the muscles I'd worked years to maintain faded faster than I could have imagined. I watched it happen to others too. Residents who arrived on their own 2 feet were soon leaning on walkers, then wheelchairs. Independence slipped away, replaced by a growing need for help with tasks we'd once done effortlessly. Wanda, an 81-year-old firecracker, used to stride around the facility, refusing to let age slow her down. But months later, I saw her with a walker, then a wheelchair. "I don't know how I aged a decade in a year," she said, her eyes betraying her shock. In a nursing home, where everything is designed to make life easier, it's easy to forget that movement is life. If I'd known how swiftly my strength would slip away, I'd have fought harder to stay active, to push myself, even on tired days. Ask yourself, will you find the will to keep your body strong when everything is done for you? Slowing down is tempting, but starting again is a battle. If these lessons are resonating, comment 4 below and join the Grow with Wisdom family by subscribing. Regret number 5, loss of privacy and dignity. I never imagined how much privacy I'd lose in a nursing home. At home, my space was my sanctuary. I could close my door, savor silence, and live life on my terms. In the nursing home, privacy became a rare gift. Staff moved in and out, room checks were routine, and shared spaces meant solitude was scarce. Even the most personal tasks, dressing, bathing, often required assistance. I understood the staff were doing their jobs, but it's humbling to need help with things you've done independently for a lifetime. In my first week, I grappled with asking permission for things I'd once done without a thought. A shower? I waited until an aide was free. The restroom? Pressing the call button sometimes meant a long wait. Meals offered little choice. If you didn't like the day's menu, you made do. Sharing a room with a stranger added another layer of challenge. I was lucky to have a kind roommate, but others weren't. Some dealt with loud, untidy, or cognitively impaired roommates who made rest impossible. No matter how hard you try, your room never feels like home. Dignity is a fragile thing, and I didn't realize how much I'd surrender until I was there. When staff enter without waiting for your response, when you're addressed as a patient rather than a person, when your days are dictated by someone else's schedule, you start to feel like a number, not a name. Ask yourself, are you ready to let go of the privacy and control that define you? Once they're gone, they're painfully hard to reclaim. Regret number 6. Realizing leaving is harder than you think. When I moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was temporary, a trial run. If I didn't like it, I'd go back home. But I didn't foresee how trapped I'd feel. My house sat empty, and maintaining it from a distance became a burden. My children, thinking they were helping, sold items they assumed I wouldn't need, and discussed renting out my home. When I mentioned returning, they hesitated. Can you manage alone? Isn't it safer here? Their concern, though loving, planted seeds of doubt in my mind. Physically, I wasn't the same after months of minimal activity. Cooking, cleaning, even walking far felt like distant memories. The independence I'd taken for granted slipped away, making the idea of living alone daunting. Others shared the same story. They entered the nursing home thinking it was temporary, only to find leaving was a maze of obstacles. The longer you stay, the harder it is to rejoin the outside world. Some lost the chance entirely when their homes were sold or their savings drained by care costs. Moving in feels like a choice you can undo, but for many, it's a one-way door. The nursing home becomes your world, and your old life fades into a bittersweet memory. Ask yourself, are you prepared for the possibility that leaving may be harder than you think? Financial, physical, and emotional barriers can lock you in tighter than you expect. If you're still here, comment 6 below and hit that subscribe button for more Grow with Wisdom. Wisdom. Regret number 7. Lack of personal connection with staff. I entered the nursing home expecting care and, perhaps naively, companionship. But I learned that forming meaningful connections with staff is rare. Many aides are kind and professional, but their packed schedules and high resident-to-staff ratios leave little room for more than surface-level interaction. They rush from task to task, offering polite smiles but rarely time for a real conversation. I craved someone to share my stories with about my grandchildren, my life, even just the day's weather. But those moments were fleeting. Once I tried telling a nurse about my granddaughter's piano recital, hoping for a spark of connection. She nodded kindly, but was called away mid-sentence. After a while, I stopped trying. I saw it in other residents too, eyes lighting up at the chance to talk, only to dim when met with hurried efficiency. It's not the staff's fault. They're stretched thin, juggling countless responsibilities. But the lack of personal engagement left me feeling like a task on a checklist, not a person with a lifetime of stories. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, can you handle care that meets your physical needs but leaves your heart longing? True connection is rarer than you might hope. If this truth struck a chord, comment 7 below and become part of the Grow with Wisdom community by subscribing. Now, let's move on to the final thoughts. Growing older is a privilege I cherish, but I deeply regret believing a nursing home was my only path. I walked in expecting comfort, safety, and ease. Instead, I lost my independence, my privacy, my purpose, and the warmth of human connection. Are all nursing homes bad? Not at all. Some people truly need their level of care. But before you decide, weigh what you're giving up. Your life, as you know it, will change in ways you can't undo. If I could turn back time, I'd have fought to stay in my home, sought in-home care, or explored community support to preserve my freedom. I'd have asked myself, do I truly need this, or is it just the path of least resistance? If you're facing this choice, take a moment to reflect. Is a nursing home what's best for you, or is it simply what seems easiest now? Your routines, your choices, your spark. They're worth holding on to for as long as you can. Thank you for joining me on this heartfelt journey with Grow with Wisdom. These 7 truths about nursing homes reshaped how I see my choices, and I hope they guide you toward decisions that honor your life's richness. What lesson spoke to you most today? Share it in the comments below. Your stories fuel our community. If this video moved you, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to Grow with Wisdom, and tap the bell icon to catch every new video. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. It could change their future. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to see you in our next video on Grow with Wisdom.